I'd like to call to order the Douglas Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on Wednesday, April 2nd at 7 PM. I just need to state that Mr. Fitzpatrick called. He has an excused absence, so he won't be here tonight. The first case is a continued public hearing of Ronald and Gail LaBelle, case number 2025-01, 45 Lindbergh Ave. Is the applicant or the representative here? Yeah, you want to join us?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. My name's Scott Davidson, and I'm looking for a permit to do a sunroom at 45 Lindbergh Ave. It was continued last time because of the date on the plans, and we had a revision with the stair location on the side of the...
Yep, and I see you got a new one dated and
Yep.
stamped.
Correct.
Okay, did everybody get a copy of that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the stair location was not on the original plans, so we had that revised.
Okay. And you also had plans here for the deck. Did you get a chance to look at those, Ken?
The plan itself?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would put it in order for
Okay.
your dimensionals.
okay,
I know that the stamp that said not for use, that's only indicative to this one plan for this one project, and that's why you kept it on there.
yep, okay. Yep. And you,
Yeah, it said the title block describes what the purpose of this plan is for, and that's it.
okay, yeah, and you redated it, redid it and redated it for the,
Yeah, he went out to the site 2 weeks ago,
yeah,
just to reconfirm everything.
yeah. Yeah, I think he called the office and said, how do I know nothing's changed out there? That's why we want you to go out, so you tell us nothing's changed.
Yeah,
So, all right, so Ken's comfortable with his plan he submitted for the sunroom, and we have the stamp plan that we were looking for. So any board members have any other questions for the applicant?
No.
I think we answered everything
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty much last time. It was just a,
Because the dimensions on the deck,
yeah,
so that's good.
yeah. Okay, if not, certainly entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Okay, we have a motion by,
Second.
okay, a motion by Mr. Forget, second by Mr. Palmer. Close the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Public hearing's closed. Does the board like to make a decision tonight?
Sure.
Okay,
Looking for a motion?
yes.
I'm making a motion that we approve the plan as submitted for a special permit for Lindbergh Ave.
Okay. So that would be both plans, right? The building plan and then the plot plan, yeah, that's certified. That way we can be sure
Okay,
everything
well,
jives.
Ken says the building plan's fine, and
Yep.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, and this plan's fine, so I'm good. All right, so both plans.
Okay, great.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Margaret, seconded by Jim, to approve it as drawn, I guess would be the right word. Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, okay.
excellent.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we'll get the decision drafted as quickly as we can, and we'll submit it to the town clerk as soon as it's drafted.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. The next agenda item is continued public hearing for Jacob Bloniaz, case number 2025-02, 125 Ledgestone Road. We got a request from the applicant to get continued. He could not get in front of the Conservation Commission between our last meeting and this meeting, so he's on the next Conservation meeting, and he'll come back at after he gets their blessing. So that is, he asked to be continued until May 8th,
7th.
7th. Thank you. So we want to take a vote and accept his request for continuance? Just need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue the 125 Ledgestone hearing to May 7th at 7 p.m.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Les. We have a second. Go ahead.
Second.
Seconded by Jim. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's continue to May 7th. Okay. And the next agenda item is a continued public hearing for Steve Flagg, case number 2025-03, 3 Huff Road. Sir, you have the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian Falk, I'm an attorney at Myrick in Worcester. We presented last month on our application for a Section 6 finding special permit to replace the existing home on this property with a new home. As you recall, the board denied an application for this project about a year ago. The applicant appealed, it's before land court, and the parties agreed as part of the land court proceedings to remand the case back to the board with the position that the structure on the property is presumed to be a residential structure, and so the board is here to decide on the legal question, which is the new structure substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure? And so we presented on that last time. Some of the board members wanted a month to think it through and come back at this meeting, so happy to answer questions that the board may have, and we're here for you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there any board members that have questions for the applicant?
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
Okay. Where do you stand with conservation?
We have not applied yet, we will. We are doing the special permit first, and then we'll apply for
Yeah.
order of conditions.
In this town, the conservation is first. Not-
Yeah, I don't think there's a rule on that in the zoning
Well,
bylaw.
that's been the policy of this board for years.
So this board's policy is they don't grant a special permit until the Conservation Commission has acted?
We wouldn't do a special permit or a variance.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm not aware of that policy, and I also don't think you have legal support for it. I mean, typically, an applicant, before they're going to incur the expense of engineering for an order of conditions, they're going to come to this board first, which has its own separate jurisdiction.
Yeah, well, we've had problems when people came here before they went to conservation, where things were granted and then they were denied by conservation. And then they came back for another hearing because conservation wouldn't let them do what we approved.
And that may be true. It's always the applicant's burden that they have to
Yeah.
comply with all of the town's jurisdictions. There are different boards of different jurisdictions, different issues they look at.
Yeah.
Applicant can't get a building permit until they comply with all of them. But in
Understood.
terms of the order in which you get the permits,
Yeah.
that may be the board's policy. I'm not aware of it. It's the first I'm hearing of it, quite honestly,
Okay.
after a year and a half or more before you. But I don't think you have the discretion to deny the application or continue it indefinitely
Yeah.
until we get
We have-
conservation approval.
Actually, we haven't been accepting, I'm not sure why yours got accepted, but we haven't been accepting applications until they had conservation approval, if there was, conservation was involved.
Yeah. The application was accepted in December of '23. It was denied on jurisdictional grounds. We're now
Yep.
before land court, a remand order.
Yep. Okay. Well, I mean, that's what we've made every applicant do. So it's unfortunate if they didn't know about that, but it's,
Yeah, I'm curious where I would find that as a rule. It's certainly not in the zoning bylaw.
no, it's just been a policy. We had more than one case where people got approved in conservation, said, you can't do that.
And if that happens, then the project doesn't go forward.
Yeah, well, that's what we've been doing, and we're just trying to treat everybody identical. You know, the same. You've had something like that, right,
Well,
Margaret?
but yeah, I would like to say, I agree with what he was saying, because you go to an awful lot of expense to go through these other boards, Conservation Commission and Board of Health, and then you go through all that process, only to, then you come back here, and what if he was denied at the zoning board?
Right.
So
No, I understand, but that's what we've been doing. You've had cases in front of the
I
board.
know, and I never agreed with those.
Well, that's what we've
Agreed with that-
done
that-
with
that
everybody else.
process.
We're just trying to,
Right, well, you know, I hear you, and every lot's a little different, and there's really only so much room they have on this lot to move anything, you know, and, you know, I remember, you know, years ago, it was the zoning board was always the final say, not the Conservation Commission, you know, and as long as he's 50 feet away from the lake, are you 50 feet away from the lake? That's,
Yeah, I had to zoom it in with my phone. It's 76.
yeah, because I know that one of the big
Roughly.
things with Conservation Commission is no structures within 50 feet of the lake. I mean, so if you're beyond that, you know,
Through the chair, we can't build a new structure that doesn't apply with the Wetlands Protection Act and local bylaw and regulations. If you look on the plan, the proposed structure is going to be out of the floodplain, you know, further from the lake. Have a less detrimental impact than the existing structure, which can remain there indefinitely and doesn't require any Conservation Commission approval to stay where it is. What we're looking to do will require Conservation Commission approval. We're within the jurisdictional area, and we certainly need that approval before we can get a building permit.
Mr. Chair, if we were to approve this, then it's really, the burden is upon them to get this approved through the other boards as
right?
submitted here.
But we've asked that of dozens of other applicants, as you know, and they all went to conservation first.
Well, and maybe if the conservation knows that the zoning board's going to be flexible, they, you know,
Well, I think,
I think it used to be the zoning board, that was it. I mean, you couldn't, took precedence, you know.
Ron?
Why couldn't we approve it pending the decision of the,
Because all the other applicants spent that money to get conservation approval in advance, and we got several of them that balked. But you know what, they all did it. You know, so I'm not one for having different rules for different
I would
folks.
say the basis of denial that the board voted on the last time this was before them had nothing to do with conservation. The issue never came up. You denied it on jurisdictional grounds. There's nowhere in that decision right now. It's certainly not part of the remand order. The remand order looks at the board, looking at the second question here, not whether it's a residential structure, but whether what we're proposing is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. I would say that that's what's before the board tonight.
Yeah. Well, I would say it's incomplete. Isn't that that's what we've been doing, right, Ken?
My understanding is that it was mandated that they go to Conservation and Board of Health for approvals before zoning board, because if the location of the dwelling on the property changed on the setbacks, everything you did is now voided.
Through the chair, I don't even understand what you're saying. You signed off on the application that we filed well over a year ago. Where is it mandated we go to conservation first? Where's that mandate
That's
from?
from-
The chair's
That's
telling
from
me
the
that for
board.
the first time now. Where's the mandate from? It's a board policy that you deny applications or don't accept them until someone goes to conservation first?
And Board of Health.
That's fine. I would encourage you to talk to your counsel if that's the basis for the board to proceed tonight.
I don't think that's been a long-standing policy here. And Ken usually gets the brunt of it. There's people, "Oh, I don't want to spend the money on engineering because I don't know if I'm going to get the variance." It's a cost of doing business. And we've insisted on everybody, and I've been here 19 years. And I would say at least the last 10, we've insisted on everybody doing, because we had issues. We had people who got approved for a variance, and then they got denied by, they didn't get denied. Conservation approved it, but you got to move the house 6 feet further back than what they were approved for. So we said, you know what, let them get the other approvals, and then we'll deal with it. And that's been, I mean, certainly not the first and not the last, because it's been going on for years. And Margaret had her own practice. She's come in front of us before and said, geez, why do I have to do the engineering before we, because that's the way it is, and everybody else has complied with it.
Everybody else?
So what I would say, if that's really your policy, there should be a giant checkbox on the bottom of your application forms that says, we will accept no application until you get conservation approval first. And you know that's not there.
Well, I don't know why it was accepted, because it's been the case for years. So,
That's your call, Mr. Chairman. I encourage you to talk to your other members.
yeah. Well, that's what we've been doing, and I don't think we should treat people differently.
No, but I don't necessarily
mean, you
agree with
got-
that. I don't necessarily agree with that policy.
No, but you-
Because for the average person, this gets very expensive, you know? Not everybody's a developer with deep pockets. It gets very expensive to do a lot of this stuff, you know? And then only to get to the end of the line and get denied, you know? And that could happen. And,
That could
you know,
happen
in the
regardless.
Conservation Commission, I mean, if you're meeting all their setbacks, they sometimes just want you to move the house 6 feet back, because they can tell you to move the house 6 feet back, but for what reason? I mean, sometimes when you have you've already been before zoning and you've got an approved zoning plan, that should take precedence, as long as you're not encroaching on the Conservation Commission setbacks. I mean, I think sometimes they've just,
Yeah. How many times have you come to this board with it? So,
yeah, I have, and I can't say that I agreed with that.
no, I'm not
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
but you complied.
But I did it, but I do know
We treated you
that.
like we treated
I know.
other people.
I know, I did that as a consultant, but I do know that, you know, the average, you know, homeowner gets expensive.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, if you're doing a job of an addition, it's a small price to pay. It has to be done anyway. It's a small price to pay if you're doing a $50,000 addition to spend, whatever, a few grand, I don't know.
No, I hear you, but in all fairness to the applicant, too, I mean, I don't think he knew about this
Well,
policy, and
that's
here it is.
unfortunate,
So
But that has been the case. That has been the policy.
somehow they have to be made aware, so all this could have been addressed.
Yep. Yep.
What
Go ahead, Ron.
what ramifications are setbacks and getting the project going and stuff like that does this cause by, we gotta approve this with the, conservation we have to wait for conservation?
That's what we've been doing. Well, the cases, Margaret was involved in some cases. We had somebody on Northwest Main Street not long ago, a few years back, and they got approved by us quite a few years back, and Conservation said no. And they didn't come for a special permit, they came for a variance.
Okay, you're explaining my question better. If we approve it in conservation, and he goes to conservation, he has to go to conservation and get that, and that gets squared away, then he's good to go. That's all I'm asking.
Correct.
Is that,
Yeah. Did Board of Health already look at it? And there's 3 boards that have to look at it.
Yeah, Board of Health has not looked at it as far as I know. I do not believe you have an approved septic system for that.
No, that would be part of our process. We've started here. These are all independent, boards that have independent jurisdiction. The Board of Health operates under the state sanitary code. The Conservation Commission acts under the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Bylaw, which are completely distinct from zoning. This board is here for zoning purposes. 3 different jurisdictions. We have to comply with all of them. If they, as sometimes happens, have competing conditions, we will have to come back and seek amendments, but that's the applicant's burden. And if you want to do a condition of approval, that we have to go and get approval from the Board of Health, and we have to get approval from the Conservation Commission, that's fine. We would accept those as conditions of approval, because we have to do it anyway.
We also need a set of, is that the exact house that you're going to build?
You've got the plan,
Yeah.
which shows the dimensions of the house, and this is a rendering of what this house would look like.
Exactly like that. Because we just had somebody else come back who thought that they could just put a little covering over there, built a thing over their front porch, which is not what was approved. So we usually always approve the plan, the variance or the special permit based on the house plan.
Yeah, and you have the plan that was submitted with the application, and you have.
Okay,
this
so there'll be no variances, no variation from that, because you'll have to come back
Well aware of that.
if there is. Well,
Well,
as,
if there's no variation to the footprint, they don't have to come back, because that's up to the building inspector if they make any
If there
interior
is.
changes, am I correct? In other words, if they don't
Well-
change anything on the outside of the building, but they move a bedroom around that.
Oh, yeah.
they have
No,
to
we're
come
not
back
talking
to
interior.
us.
We're
So
talking-
You're talking about a set of stairs or an overhang or
Right.
something like that, I
Yeah.
agree with.
But if-
And I'm, good.
If this is the set of plans that you're talking dimensional, there is no dimensions on this set of plans at all. So I don't know, other than the rendering in my packet I have, which is a rendering I have on the permit application, and this square floor plan telling rooms, I don't have dimensions of the property.
And through the chair, these aren't construction plans. We're here for zoning, which is for setbacks, lot coverage, access, all those kinds of things. The interior of the building, the floor plans aren't relevant.
we're not interested in the floor plan, it's the exterior. There may be, for instance, if someone's going to build a single-story home with and they come in and they say, oh, we're going to do a 30 by 40, and then it's assumed it's one story, then they come back and build a two-story with a, maybe a butters would have an issue with a two-story home versus a
And
one.
we've
So we just
applied-
want it to be
Sure.
consistent. That's all we're trying to, get these problems out of the way before construction.
Yeah, and we've applied for a two-story home. You've got renderings of what the,
And there'll be no changes from that on the exterior.
there are no, we have the plans that we submitted. You've got your plot plan. If there are changes the building commissioner can't approve as part of the building permit, we have to come back. We understand that.
What is it, just one elevation? I think.
I have no elevations, I have no dimensional plans, so on my behalf from the building department, if this plan came in with any changes to the deck sizes or anything else, it would be going back to the board. I have never and will never take it upon myself. Or from the zoning bylaws.
If you look on our decisions, it says the home will be built according to the plans drawn by so-and-so, dated so-and-so, and that's not, there's,
And you have a plan that you can describe in your.
You know what?
We'll submit it with the application.
you're going to have to go by the same
Existing structure.
policies as we've used in the past with other people, which is a set of plans and get conservation approval. That's what we've done. We're not going to change the rules midstream. You know, if you didn't know about that, I apologize, that's unfortunate, but, and we will make sure it's on our application, but it hasn't been a problem. When you had cases here, Margaret, everybody knew it, right? You knew it, you didn't know,
Oh, I knew.
You didn't come to the
after I
meeting and-
s- No, I knew it after I submitted the application, and I was
Okay.
told I had to do it, and I was kind of surprised.
well, yeah, and I'm not sure why
No.
they weren't told to do it, but.
Yeah. Well, could I ask town council what his thoughts are on this?
Go ahead.
Is-
What Attorney Falk has said is accurate. I'm not aware of a state statute or regulation that requires conservation approval as a precondition to ZBA approval. I wasn't previously aware of a policy in the town of Douglas. I agree with what Attorney Falk said, that ZBA has separate and distinct jurisdiction from Board of Health, from Conservation, and those proceedings run concurrently. He is correct. If there are competing conditions from a Conservation approval or Board of Health approval, he may well have to come back, and that is the risk of
And
the...
that's what we're trying to avoid. We don't need to have people come 2 or 3 times for what should be a one-time application. And if it's complete and it's approved, then we just move forward. You know, we just had one, what, 2 months ago? We had another one with a deck that they proposed a certain size and they built something bigger. Well, they came back. We're trying to avoid all of that by people submitting complete applications and getting approved or denied based on a complete application.
And those are situations that's on the applicant. If the applicant makes changes or another board with distinct jurisdiction imposes a condition of approval that's inconsistent with a condition this board imposes, that's on the applicant to come back. We understand that.
I think that it's on the applicant's deal. If they wanted to move forward and we wanted to, I don't see why we have to wait until the other boards have gone through it, because the other boards could very easily just say, well, does it meet the ZBA standards? Are they going to approve it? And I mean, it could just go in a great big circle and go round and round and round.
I don't know. What do you say to the other dozens of people who have
I
complied?
can't answer that one.
You know? And well,
I do know, Mr. Chair, too, though, we don't want people to come back after they've already been through the zoning process, and you tell them that this is the footprint, don't go outside this footprint, and then they still do, whether they have all the other approvals or not, and so they're still coming back. They're still coming back. How many times that happened, Ken?
too many.
Yep,
I have another one coming back that did the same thing,
yep.
but I think if I may.
Go ahead.
I think what he's trying to eliminate is from the beginning of the process. My understanding, and I could be wrong in this, the zoning approval is for what's on the drawing as built. And if that deviates from it, it kind of voids out that approval. So it basically becomes an approval all over again. That's my understanding, but I could be totally wrong. So it's a starting process again that could involve re-notification for mailing lists and everything else, because it's a new approval you're seeking. So it's just trying to eliminate it, trying to streamline it, get it in line so that the last process, you're going for the zoning, you're going for your dimensional reliefs, whether it's setbacks or size or whatever it is, and everything's on the plan to know that this is where this house can be built, or the property can be built. Not, it might be here, but if I go to conservation, it might be over here.
Not on this lot.
So just through the chair, I mean, that's the applicant's risk, right? If, when I'm trying to think of the cases where I've been before conservation ZBA over the course of, my lifetime, is, the conservation feedback is sometimes key because of the setbacks of the no build within 25 feet, you're gonna file no disturbance within 50 feet. So the applicant takes the risk of getting one board's approval before the other in those cases, but they've got two different charters and they follow two different law books, right? So, that's the point that I think you're highlighting is that what's before us is this, and if the applicant takes the risk of seeking approval. But the other one is the Board of Health. And that one there's sometimes not a little wiggle room where the well has to be here, septic has to be this separated. You know what I mean? Because there's a 100-foot separation between the two. Usually, without the Board of Health approval, that's why I kind of asked that question. You could put a structure up and it'd be considered a garage at that point, because if you can't get your septic and well to work on the property with the abutting wells and stuff like that, that's a big issue. You know what I mean? So how can, because I can't put my septic right next to, Mr. Frazier's, well, because I'm going to contaminate his well with my septic. So that's my concern is that you have to have Board of Health.
Well, through the chair.
If not, the Board of Health can deny that thing, and your whole plan's sunk anyways.
Well,
Through your business, you've had some business in front of this board, and you had conservation issues, I remember. And you took care of those prior to the coming to the board.
Yeah.
So we've been consistent. It's not like we've been inconsistent.
Yeah, it's trying, what really happens is that each board tries to not overstep each other's board approval, so they're in sync. So, that's what has transpired and stuff like that in the past, but prior to that, it used to be out of sync. In some communities, it is out of sync, where you get approval from conservation, and then you go to, ZBA, or, they could say, oh, no, we want these changes, then you run the risk of going back. So sometimes an applicant can feel like a ping pong ball between boards and stuff like that, so that's the goal of keeping them with both seeing the same plan as well. Because I'm thinking the applications I've done prior to going through the three processes, is I always look for the Board of Health first, because that's a big thing, and getting that approval is key. Because if that doesn't work, because the big thing with the Board of Health is the location of septic and stuff like that. Looking at where this is, you've got a home over here, in the current structure, it's close to the water. I don't foresee anything, alarming, because there's an existing structure so close to the water. And there's relief basically when that structure comes back. But I can't speak before that, that commission and that board starts.
If I may, we have three entities here: zoning board, Concom, Board of Health, all have their own rules. Now, as far as the Board of Health goes, there's an existing structure here with an existing cesspool on the property. They have to allow him to fix that. Can we put in a conventional system? And I'm sure your engineer has already looked at all three things when he set up this design. Is a conventional system going to fit in here and meet all the offsets with the different wells? If not, you ask for waivers. And if you don't get the waiver, worst case scenario, you get a tight tank, but they have to allow you to fix a failed septic on an existing residential lot. And then, as far as Concom, they have their own set of rules. So I see it as three different entities here,
And through the Chair, the professional engineer that we use to prepare these plans is aware of all the different hoops that the applicant needs to go through in Town Hall to get an approval. He's going to be the same engineer that's with us on those applications. He's not doing this in a vacuum for zoning purposes only. The wells and proposed septic are depicted on there. They're not just where he might want to put them, they're based on what he thinks is approvable. But we started with the Board of Appeals, and quite honestly, it's a strategic decision for many applicants, is where do we start? And we started here because 3 years ago, this board encouraged the applicant, before I was on the team, to withdraw without prejudice for essentially the same reasons that the board denied this application a year ago. And so, looking to do the process again and making some changes, the applicant team decided, let's start with the Board of Appeals. That's the highest hurdle in our view in terms of discretionary approval, and that's where we're starting. And we would work on the more developed plans that we would need to go before the Conservation Commission once we get through this board. And if the other boards impose conditions that we can't comply with or can contradict this board's conditions, then we would come back. That is, you may want to avoid that on our behalf, and I guess I should appreciate that, but we understand that is the applicant's burden. If we have to come back, we have to come back. We're comfortable that we can build what we're looking to build with the plans that we've submitted, and we're comfortable we'll get the other approvals that we need. And again, we're perfectly happy with conditions of approval from this board that we have to comply with whatever permits we need to get from the Conservation Commission and the Board of Health.
Anybody else?
Just through the chair, the plan that they are proposing does show a location of a proposed well, which is next to the structure, the existing structure, and it does show a location at the far end of the property of the leach field. So,
Which those are Board of Health issues.
Correct.
We're just trying to get them resolved.
at least is on a plan, you know what I mean? And to Margaret's point about tight tanks, and I've had to install tight tanks in situations, so that's the risk of not cross-contaminating and stuff like that, so that's it. So,
How does the board want to proceed? As far as I'm concerned, it's an incomplete application. We're looking for this applicant to do exactly what other applicants have done for the last, God knows how many years. And unfortunate if he wasn't aware, but most often, people working on both, you know that, Michael, most time people are working on both, or on all three at the same time, trying to get,
I hear you, Mr. Chair, but I don't think it's anywhere in writing that says that you have to do that, is it? Is it?
I don't know, but you didn't have any problem doing it,
Well, because I was,
because the board said that's our policy, and you went by the policy. Les had the same thing,
can't
you
say
know, I mean, we're going to change the rules?
I think,
Well, I don't think it's
I try to
changing
be
the rules. I
consistent.
think it's the fact that they were told and they weren't told. So, I mean, how do you hold somebody accountable for something they don't even know that they were supposed to supposedly do? And if they're three separate boards, I don't understand where it matters which one you go to first, other than the fact that if they get bounced by one of the other ones, that becomes a problem with this already existing approval. I mean, other than that, but again, that's on them to make that choice, in my eyes.
maybe this one just fell through the cracks, and maybe we should make an exception, because it did fall through the cracks.
Well, you know me well enough, I'm all about consistent.
But he's telling us he didn't know about that.
Well, maybe he didn't do his
Didn't.
job.
What?
Why didn't he ask?
So is that 4 minutes?
You know, I mean,
Why didn't you,
you know, it could go on and on, you know? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to treat everybody the same. We've been consistent with, in both of your cases, I've had a case in front of this board. And I submitted the plans, got my conservation approval, I got my Board of Health approval, and then I came for a variance. So,
But, just to the chair, but you know, in that case, if the variant, they ask for something changed, you then going to go back to those boards for a reapproval. You know, I think,
well, that could be the case with any,
correct. So I think that's the applicant's risk is here, is knowing that if a decision is made by one board, another board can say, well, it's going to go back another 20 feet.
right? No, I understand. It has happened.
Yep. So, you know, I guess council's here, and they can weigh in, and if the applicant is risking it, you know, or the board wants to entertain it. I guess, you know, what's the thought?
It's the board's choice. I'm only one member. But I believe in treating everybody the same. And that's what, we're only asking them to do what other people have done, including 3 people at this table.
Yeah. Not every community does that, I mean, and has the sync, you know, making them sync, some of them have them staggered. I can't speak for, you know, and in the past, that's what it was, and it was, you know, aggravating at times. You know, knowing the process in this communities, I understand that it's a benefit of having them in sync, because then you don't have to go back. But, you know, it's a timing and it's a risk, and, you know, council, you're familiar with other communities, how do other communities do it? Are they in sync, or are they sometimes staggered?
I'm familiar with them all going at the same time. And it being the decision of the applicant, like council was describing, to choose strategically. Do we start with ZBA? Do we start with Board of Health? Do we start with conservation? I've never had a case where the ZBA has denied someone for an incomplete application for not showing up with a conservation approval in hand.
Well, if you look at what your office has drafted, every one of those approvals that come from this board have spelled out the plan, dated, drawn by, approved by,
Absolutely.
so why would we do anything different?
So, Mr. Chair, what I just said is I'm not aware of any board denying someone for not having a conservation approval when they show up. It may be, and I've been working here in Douglas for a very limited time. It may be the case that there's a tradition of that in Douglas, but I'm not aware of anybody ever being denied for not having the conservation approval. I mean, I chair
Well,
mine.
nobody's saying they have to be denied, just submit a complete application and continue it. I don't know.
Well, Mr. Chair, I hear your concerns about this is a way you've treated all applicants, and I hear you, and I also hear this applicant who's been before this board several times, and this is, I believe him when he's saying this is the first he's been aware that he's required to do
Not
that.
questioning his honesty, I'm just,
So I'm just saying, so, this just might be an exception to that
what do we do on
policy.
future cases?
Make it, put it right
Tell
on,
them up front.
yeah,
Make
put
sure
it right on the,
Policy.
yeah,
Yeah.
put it in writing. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever the board's pleasure is, well,
Do we want to hear from the public at all, or
Not sure we need to.
me
I
to?
don't think we need that, because
Okay.
we're dealing with what we've been doing for years.
Oh, so what's our, so what is the question?
Do we
Yeah.
wanna-
I'd like to see a complete application like everybody else has done. And this goes back to, this all started actually back when Adele was the building inspector. And she said, I want you to approve them with plans, I want the conservation approvals, I want the Board of Health approvals, so I know what I can enforce. So if it got approved, we don't know what, he doesn't know what he can enforce. If you don't have a set of plans, you don't have approvals,
But-
He doesn't get to do anything until after everything else has been approved and he's given the building permit. He can't give the building permit till all that stuff's been done
Correct.
anyway, so it shouldn't really matter which way it goes. I mean,
Yeah, you're looking, conservation is going to be minimum 2 months, right, for hearings and get a DEP ID, and then Board of Health is relatively 4 weeks, roughly from plans and everything else.
Yep.
And, Mr. Frazier's, reviewing plans and stuff like that is set time, whatever that is. I forget, I don't want to speak for it. I'm not sure if it's 30 days or 60 days or whatever it is, but a complete application from there. So, but I think it's where this board is in charge of and to follow with Mass General Law, is the thing. So, and the applicant takes the risk. Anything beyond that, outside of, with the other boards. Or, but, you know what I
I
mean?
don't know, I'm not comfortable treating people differently, but if you guys are, let's do it, treat them different,
No,
But we're going years, back to Adele's days, and she's the one that came to the board and said, get these people to get these approvals done in advance. And we did, and it's worked reasonably well. But, again, I'm one member.
I can say, as a building commissioner, I would never give a permit to build this structure. That's what I have in front of me.
No, I agree.
This is an incomplete set of plans in all areas.
Correct.
No dimensions, no elevations, no construction type. There's nothing
Through
here.
the chair,
It's a
the
plot
plans we submitted.
Please don't interrupt the building inspector speaking.
It's a plot plan showing a proposed location for a dwelling and a rendition of what it may or may not look like. That's not a plan for a building permit, so they would never get a building permit on this.
If I may, through the chair.
Yep.
The plans we submitted are the ones that comply with the zoning board of appeals requirements for special permit applications. We would not submit construction plans, full construction plans at this level. This is the zoning, the special permit level. When we apply for a building permit, we would certainly be submitting construction plans because those are the plans that are required for a building permit. We wouldn't be submitting building permit level plans at the zoning board of appeals level. The plans we submitted comply with the zoning board's rules and requirements for applications. Board's requirements aren't full set of construction drawings before you get a hearing on a special permit.
People have submitted plans with dimensions, with all 4 elevations, and whatever, any decks, whatever, doesn't show any decks on there. I don't know if there's a deck or not in the back, or you don't know what the back looks like. So,
If I look at this quickly, this is, I believe, the back of the home coming in from the road, I think would be in front of it. They're showing a 4-foot deck. On their rendition, they show a 4-foot deck. It's got a roof over it. I didn't know that it has a roof over it. It's just showing a plot. It doesn't show what it is.
I agree.
Well, the plan I'm looking at here, that, Mr. Chair, that was submitted, I see the footprint of the house that shows porches and dimensions and decks and garage, slab elevation and top of concrete. So as far as the site plan goes, it has everything on there that I see, dimensions and offsets, and a lot like this, you have no wiggle room between the wells, the septics, and zoning. There's really, sometimes, there's nowhere else this house is going to go. It's kind of... These lots kind of design themselves because you don't have a lot of options. It is what it is because of the wells and the septics.
I mean, to Margaret's point, plan does show the location of the house, proposed house. There is a rendering of the proposed house here. Clearly, you can see that's not 5 stories. It does show that it's good, it does call out that it's composite deck, which is, and it is dated with the application to the ZBA. And it does have the dimensions of what's being proposed. So use the footprint of what's being proposed here, as well as the rendering. I get what Mr. Frazier talks about with structural plans and stuff like that. That's for the building application itself.
Yeah, we're not looking for framing plans.
Right, the framing, you know what I mean? So that's a completely different thing. So, just a question for council. Based upon a rendering and the location of a proposed location, and this is considered, request is for, came back to us as a remand, is basically allowing them to tear down the existing structure and relocate it, which has been done in this community with other applicants. With this having a location of house, footprint of the house, and it shows where the septic and well are being proposed, which, is sometimes, required us to take a look, so it's not being infringed upon to be able to put it in, and it shows the rendering of the structure being there and dated. So why wouldn't this be considered, in your eyes, as council, a complete application before any ZBA board?
I would say that the plan has to give you the information you need to know if the proposal complies with zoning or to the extent that it doesn't comply with zoning. So a site plan, per Margaret's comment, would accomplish that. Obviously, the building commissioner wears 2 hats as he sits here, right? He's the zoning enforcement officer, but he's also the building code compliance person that we have in town hall. So I do agree with the comments that are made that construction drawings would not be required. The plan has to show you the setbacks, frontage, things of that nature. I don't have the exact plan in front of me, but obviously proposed location of a well is Board of Health, right? That's not zoning.
No, it's not zoning, but it comes into play with the site plan. That's the reason why, and then the location of the septic, but the proposal, the footprint and the existing structure is going to be required.
Yeah, this shows you where the setbacks are, the measurements of the boundaries. That's what a site plan effectively is supposed to, not trying to give an exhaustive list, but that's what a site plan is supposed to show. Construction detail isn't something that you would need to know. At this stage, obviously the building commissioner would need to know that in connection with the application for building permit, assuming that all the approvals would be in order at some point.
So back to my question, just, sorry, Jim. So based upon a rendering and a site plan, in your eyes, is it a complete application from a ZBA standpoint?
I believe that it is.
Mr. Chairman, are we
Yeah, go
ready
ahead.
to make a motion?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, are we ready to make a
Yeah,
motion?
absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit for 3 Huff Road, the remand from Land Court, as the drawings are done, excuse me, on, no, that's not, that's not the right. Do you have a number on that?
Would I zoom it in?
I should have pulled that out, I apologize for that. I was just looking for if there's any information on that plan. Is that in front of you, Ron, right there?
Yeah, hold on.
No, that's a previous case, Ron.
Here's site plan.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a date.
I have a copy if you need it. This is what was submitted.
Let's go with council. May I see it, please, sir? Thank you.
Oh.
From Quinn Engineering for 3 Huff Road, dated, need bigger glasses.
Yeah.
I have a,
Yeah?
yeah, February 9th,
February.
2021. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. What else do you need, sir? For
That's
that?
your motion, so.
Well,
And it would tie this in.
and yes, and it would be on the approval of this setup here for the plans, for the
The rendering
rendering of the,
dated October 10th, 2023.
correct. The rendering dated October 10th, 2023 for the structure.
Okay.
Second motion?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Palmer, seconded by Margaret. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed.
Aye.
So we have 4 in favor and 1 opposed, so your application passes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is North Brown LLC, and I believe everybody's gotten a copy. We got some,
Need to use the bathroom.
okay, all right, we're just going to take a 2-minute break here.
Thank you.
Two 10% contingencies, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to,
Yep.
for us as well as the public to be aware of it.
Yep.
And stuff like that. That's all. And again, you kind of looked at it as a chair. I guess it covers everything that was up
Yep.
that we see. Two lists lined up.
How would the board feel about if, could you have Ed give Jay a call
Absolutely.
and just
Yeah,
make sure they're both on board?
Yeah.
Because it is a contract, more or less.
absolutely.
And if board members are not opposed to it, if they get that ironed out in the next few days, maybe we could come in individually and
Just sign it.
sign it.
We would appreciate that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we just, we don't want to sign something and,
Agreed 100%.
Then you can
And-
change stuff around again.
yeah,
No, if you guys would be willing to do that, we
And-
would appreciate it.
yeah. If- I'm up for that if the rest of the board is.
Yeah.
Okay. It's unfortunate they,
Make it easy.
excuse me, but lawyers being lawyers.
Taking their time.
Some jokes are funny because they're true.
Took you an hour to get that comment out?
None of them have a watch when they're reviewing something.
So why don't we do that, Neil? And if you don't mind taking the initiative to see if Ed can get a hold of Jay? And maybe Ed's going to call him and say, I reviewed it and everything's cool. Chances are they all want to have a word or two changed. But whatever it may be, I think we as a board are ready to sign. We got numbers from Haley and Ward that we're comfortable with, and you're comfortable with them, so I'm certainly not interested in holding you up.
Thank you.
Question to the
Yeah,
chair.
go ahead.
Thanks. The as-bills, there was finalizing those as-bills for phase 2 and 3.
Do you know where those stand?
So Phase 2 as-built have been submitted and reviewed. Their response is being drafted right now.
Okay.
But as far as we're concerned, we're in compliance with the comp permit because they're just partial as-built that have to be submitted.
Okay, and then we did get a letter from Water and Sewer saying that whatever he had at the time of that writing that he was not comfortable with.
He has received everything he has requested.
He
And
has.
as far as, he's told me he's happy with it.
Okay. All right. With the board's permission, I'll just ask staff to just get it from the Water and Sewer Director in writing.
Yep.
You know, I've received it, I'm happy with it, and it just kind of puts everybody in a better position.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this plan just came in today for the partial as-built of Phase 3, which is the center room. So I don't know if Water Sewer has reviewed this or not. I have heard no comments from them about it. I
Okay.
just received it today, too.
All right.
I didn't submit that. Water and Sewer has reviewed the infrastructure and has approved the infrastructure for that phase. This is just has grading shots on it. That's the only thing that's different.
Okay. Would you be able to just ask our staff to get in touch with Water and Sewer? And
I'll do that tomorrow.
I appreciate it.
I'll ask the staff to get in touch with Water Sewer, get documentation from them with regards to their acceptance or denial of Phase 1 through 3, as-built, partial as-built, all documentation.
Perfect. Great. Anybody else? wants to- Okay. All right, Neil, we'll try to get this wrapped up ASAP.
Thank you, I
If you
appreciate
could
it.
have Ed take the initiative, then
I'm going to call him
we'll
again.
put it on his shoulders to get in touch with
I
Jay.
know Jay's anxiously waiting.
Mr. Chair, before you leave, you might want an update on where they are with Phase 4.
Oh, sure.
Structure
Yeah.
installation.
Good.
So Phase 4, sewer, water and sewer mains have both been put in. Services are not completed yet, coming off of the roads. The water main has been tested for pressure and is currently in the process of being chlorinated. So at some point this week, quality tests will be taken, and then they're going to be working on services.
Okay. Has the sewer been tested as well?
Not yet.
No. Sewer and manholes?
Sewer manholes have not, and the main is not. That'll be done after all the laterals are done.
Oh, okay. Don't they usually do that testing before the laterals go in?
No?
No? Okay. Great. All right, good. We'll,
Phase is, on that is to excavate, grade, back to those into your binder.
Yes, yep. Once the water and sewer is complete and tested, manholes will be completed and bricked, and then we'll be graveling, compacting, getting the testing done prior to asphalt.
yeah. What is your goal for base coat?
When do we want to have asphalt down? Within 2 months.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Question to the chair.
Sure.
Is the loop completed, the water loop? Is that where you're
The
tied
water
in?
loop is completed.
Okay, that's what.
It's not turned on.
Not turned
This
on.
last section,
Yep.
not turned on, obviously, until we get the quality test
Yeah,
done.
okay,
Yeah, but the entire loop is together.
okay, perfect. That's good. Important.
Yep. Anybody else? Or do you have anything else? Good.
I'm sorry?
Do you have anything else you could offer us at this point?
No, I think that's it. I'm boring.
All right. We'll see if we can get this taken care of ASAP.
Yeah, I'll call it right away.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Have a good night, guys.
You
Yep,
too.
you too. The, we have some
Minutes?
we have minutes, and while we're doing the minutes, we can also, just had one invoice that we need to pay, so pass that around.
So this special permit that we just voted on, now that needed a supermajority, right?
Correct.
So we had to have the 4 out of 5. So
Correct.
So he took a chance with Mike not being here, correct? Or would Les not have voted? How would that have worked?
No, Les is an alternate, and if someone's missing, he was at that meeting.
Yeah,
he
yeah, so,
certainly
so,
vote.
okay.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have made it, yeah.
Les was present. If Les wasn't present at the other meeting, he would have to do a Mullen affidavit,
Correct.
Yeah.
watching the meeting.
Yep.
But Les, you were here last month.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So everybody was here.
Yep. I missed my first ZBA meeting at Dan never let it down. Don't do it again.
Hey, that's my job. That's my job, Les.
I take it that's an unexcused absence?
No, it was excused.
Yeah,
So I got a free pass on it, but Dan wasn't aware of it, so.
that's true. Yep, I did say it was unexcused,
Yeah.
and when I got home, I went on my computer, and I had an email, yep, that came in after I was last on my computer, so.
Motion for reconsideration.
Good. And we do have our minutes, I think everybody's got a copy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Board, I'd like to ask the board for clarification going forward, what's going to be required for applicants to the zoning board of appeals for special permits, variances, and the likes.
It's a fair request.
If I can get something in writing from the board as to what their pleasure is, so that I can put something into the packet, I'll put it online.
Okay.
In the packet with
Yep.
guidance as to exactly what's required. And I would like to know, what you want from plans, board's approvals prior to, and all that.
Yep.
See, I'm not following that. What do you want?
I would like the board to make a determination exactly what they are going to require for an applicant to come to the board
Oh,
for a special permit or a variance or any of the likes
Yeah.
in regards to plans, boards being already approved, not approved, which, the
The order of the-
conservation,
right.
the Board of Health, what direction they want to go, boom, 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 so I can get it online
Right.
and be done.
He thought he had it for the last several years, but, yep,
Because I have applicants coming in now that it's going to be an issue, just saying.
well, why should they pay if somebody else didn't pay? Which is, I mean, I am all about consistency, but,
Well, it's been my experience, and not in this town, but in other towns, that as soon as the Conservation Commission knows that the zoning board's going to go with what the commission wants, and that they sometimes the zoning board will allow, I guess, I don't know how to say it, allow you to encroach zoning a whole lot more than you really should, because the commission feels uncomfortable instead of, they're always pushing houses further and further away from wetlands. And I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but sometimes there's really no reason behind it, just because they can, and then the zoning board, that once they know the zoning board will allow, then you kind of open up that can of worms, That's one of my concerns,
I'm not a zoning board member from that part, but from the enforcement part, that's a terrible idea. Because if you have something that comes into the zoning board for an approval that has a 6-foot offset to the side boundary, and conservation or the Board of Health comes in and says, hey, you gotta move that 2 more feet, that's a big encroachment on the property owner.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
I
that wouldn't
agree.
be just a,
I know, but so,
an insignificant thing.
but I've seen that happen. They've allowed you know, to get closer to the lot line, so you're farther away from the wetlands, but you're absolutely right. So you get approval from the Concom to put your house over here, then you're encroaching zoning more. I see that.
Well, Paul, as always had been, that the ZBA was more flexible than some other boards in this town. So, said, go get approved by them, and we'll see what you're putting together.
The name of the board says it,
With the zoning board.
but of appeals.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But when you have people who aren't doing, they submit plans and they still don't do what they submit. We just had one in Cottage Colony. That should have been, that roof should have been on the original plan, but it wasn't. And we approved it based on the plan that was submitted.
Of course, right.
What do you mean, they put a new roof on? That one? And they-
That was the stoop, right? With the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a stoop with the little
Yeah.
roof?
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't on the plan?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
It really?
'Cause they get a variance,
Somebody
they-
said that's a big problem?
Absolutely.
by the street,
Oh,
wasn't
Ron,
it?
that's a huge,
That was
that's a
on the edge of the
huge
road,
problem.
Johnny.
On the edge of the road.
That was like 3 feet or 5 feet from the road.
They
It was
get-
really
yeah,
close to the...
right, and they get a variance for like 9 feet, and then when they did that, they were 4 feet. So that is a
Talking of the stoop, she had another little roof,
This was right on the front, you had
right
facing
where
the
the main
street.
door into the...
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
okay,
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah. I thought you were talking about the other one.
No, no.
Another little one on the side.
They built into the setback beyond what they got a variance?
Yeah,
Correct. Which then triggers you to
And- and they were-
Didn't have stairs or anything, and the road was only about 8 feet
And
away.
there's a sight line issue anyway?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
so it's dangerous.
XYZ.
Correct.
Yeah.
and the lady, Ken went out there and
The deck
lady
is
slammed the
twice
door in his
size of what
face
was approved.
because he said,
There's a deck
that's
on the
not on the
side and
plan, and that's not what was
on the
approved.
plan.
So that's why leaving open-ended things like this scare me.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's an enforcement issue. I mean,
Right.
Well, it is, but he should be able to know what he can enforce and what was approved and what wasn't, and
Right.
whatever, instead of putting him in the middle all the time. Just submit what you're gonna do, if it gets approved, do it, and everything's cool, but
But, I mean, I think it's always, good for an applicant to submit, to all the boards that they have to go before, you know what I mean? So, but any, I mean, a board has to stay within their swim lane, is the big thing. So, and then when everybody gets their boxes checked, and there's a plan, a common plan that they're basing it off of, then that's the site plan of record. And it's a coordination, and the applicant rolls the dice on changes that they make on their own. Applicant rolls the dice if one board approves one plan. And I've seen this in a community, where 2 boards had 2 different plans that weren't the same, and they both approved it, you know what I mean? And it comes out at the end. And
especially on small lots, right? There's tension a lot of times. Conservation wants it further away from resource area, then you're encroaching into the setback.
Well, the conservation wants to be the last one to issue a permit. They want the Board of Health and they want the zoning. They want to be the last sign-off, so that they know that nothing's going to change. So, and I think there's a state rule, or in the Wetlands Protection Act, they should be the last ones in the permitting process.
That could be, I'm not,
I'm pretty sure it is. I've been,
on my planning board, they come with conservation and approval in hand sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't.
But I think the whole thing is that, an applicant has to submit before the boards that they're going to go before for their approval. But each board is independent regarding their Mass General law, and they can only really stay within their swim lane.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
You people
Why don't we do that?
know what the zoning was when they started zoning, Douglas?
but
You mean the first,
A house lot was going to be 7 acres. 7 acres.
I think times might have changed a little bit.
Huh?
Times changed a little bit, I think.
That's what they wanted, but they didn't get it.
Back in 1820, when Ron was there.
Yeah.
No, and you know what stopped it? What was Douglas at that time? All small farms. And the farmer said, I got 20-some, 50 acres here, and I get 2 house lots out of it. So some of this stuff is
No, I know.
really nuts.
Well,
The 5 of the steps with the special permit approval, one of them is the character of the neighborhood and the site and there's the 5 steps. How can you approve something? I mean, sure, that's a rendition of the front or the back of the home, but that's not in with the neighborhood. How do you even know,
Yep.
what you're approving?
right.
So I think the answer to that, Ken, I think with this other issue that you encountered, it sounds like that lady got a variance to be so many feet into the setback, and then she built actually beyond the footprint that was shown on the site plan.
With the steps and the little roof. yeah.
So in this case, if Flag were to build further into the setback, were to encroach beyond what's shown on the site plan.
Any applicant. Yeah, any applicant. Yeah.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
not specifically.
Yeah, no, any applicant, yeah.
No, I think that's true. Your site plan sets in your structural boundaries.
Yep.
So from a zoning perspective, I mean, and that's why we have setbacks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're showing a foundation plan on that plan. The zoning requirements are any part of the structure that approaches on the zoning, not just the foundation. That plan shows 12 to 18-inch overhangs on that roof.
That's right.
So
Just
now
gonna
he's
say
showing
that.
it as 6'6" on the side setback, minus the 1'6" overhang. So now he's only 5 feet off the setback.
Yep.
Now, if he comes in and says, I need to move this foundation 3 feet, he's 2 feet off the setback. So a foundation plan does not signify the final structure that's being built by zoning.
Does that say that it's a foundation plan?
It is a foundation.
It's
plan.
a foundation plan. It's the proposed building
But
footprint.
it looks like there's
Anybody. And then, and that's,
overhangs on, there are overhangs on that.
Overhangs all the way around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
So, I mean,
well, he's got to comply with the plan that we referenced. If that plan, if he's closer than that, then he's got to come back.
so now I've got to require for his building permit application, the site plan showing the exact location of the exact dwelling he's building on that site plan, or I can't give him a permit for that. So it's going to be redrawing that site plan. But you guys approved that site plan, so what happens now?
Yeah, right.
If he has to redraw it to show all the overhangs and everything else? Does he have to come back to the zoning board for approval on something different?
Well, if he's any closer than what shows on that plot plan, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's outside the footprint of what's on that plan, he does.
Right,
yeah.
but
That's right.
you know what,
Yeah.
Margaret, people do, they go by the foundation. But when you got an overhang
You're gonna
on each end of the
deny the
house,
building
that
permit.
puts you
That happens.
12, 18 inches closer to the lot line. So now they're in violation.
I'm going to
So,
want to see the exact building.
If he's, well,
so I would,
The site plan that he's talking about, and if he's got to show all the overhangs, and if the overhangs are further over, then I deny the permit.
we,
Failure to comply with zoning.
we had one on,
If he disagrees with you, ironically, he can appeal you.
whatever they call that neighborhood up by Wallem Lake. Same thing.
I'm just
Guy came in,
that
he
is the
approves.
process, right?
He puts exactly what he wants on the plan. I was like, this is what you're going to build? He's like, yep.
But I mean,
Unfortunately, he didn't draw any stairs on it, so it got approved by the plan.
eliminate that.
so,
Back here again,
You could potentially have.
we're trying to
Back to this-
simplify it if we can, but whatever, it is what it is.
Good.
so, Mr. Chairman.
How do we change that?
Let's go back to the minutes.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion to,
And all the approvals prior.
Yeah, but if,
Ronnie,
huh?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the March 5th meeting minutes for the ZBA as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Les, second by Ron, to approve the March 5th minutes as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved as written. Yeah, that's all we got.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:20.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Les to adjourn at 8:20, second by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned at 8:20.